The forest at dusk seemed almost alive, shadows twisting between the tall pines as if whispering secrets. In the hidden village on the edge of the packlands, she moved carefully, footsteps silent on the damp earth. Her chest tightened every time she thought of the mark on her shoulder, the one no one could ever see, a mark that could brand her as different, a shifter, powerful beyond her own understanding. Kaelin, though that wasn't the name she used in the village, pressed a hand against the small satchel at her side, ensuring the herbs and charms within stayed hidden. She had spent 10 years blending in, pretending to be human, but tonight the tension felt heavier than usual. Maybe it was the wind, or maybe it was that uncanny sense she had that someone, or something, was watching, and then he appeared. A figure emerging from the trees, tall, broad, shouldered, moving with a predator's grace that made her stomach tighten. Alpha, she realized immediately, though she didn't know his name yet. His eyes, amber and piercing, seemed to see everything. The lies, the fears, the truth buried deep beneath her carefully constructed life. Kaelin froze. Her hand instinctively moved to cover the faint glow of the mark on her shoulder. She had to stay hidden. She had to stay alive. "You're far from the village," he said, voice low and dangerous, carrying the weight of authority and something more. "Magnetic, it's not safe for someone like you to wander here alone." Her heart pounded. I know the woods," she said, voice trembling just enough to hide the adrenaline. She stopped herself, sensing the heat of his gaze. It was like he could read her very soul. He tilted his head, a faint smirk playing at the corner of his lips. "Do you?" His voice was curiosity laced with a warning. "Or are you hiding something?" The hairs on the back of her neck rose. How could he know? How could anyone know? Kaelin swallowed hard, the weight of years spent hiding threatening to crush her. "Just mind your business," she murmured, trying to sound braver than she felt. The Alpha's laugh was low, almost amused. "I've been watching more than you think. Be careful, little one. The woods are full of things that bite, and they don't all leave marks you can see." And with that, he melted back into the shadows, leaving her trembling. A part of her wanted to run, to bury herself in anonymity once more. But another part, darker, hungrier, longed to see him again, to test the invisible thread pulling her toward danger. The wind carried a whisper from the forest, and Kaelin shivered. She couldn't ignore it. The game had begun, and no matter how tightly she held onto her secret, the Alpha had already caught a glimpse of something she could never hide completely. Cliffhanger, someone, or something, was moving behind the trees, watching her with intent, and it wasn't the Alpha. The forest never felt so alive. Every rustle of leaves, every distant snap of a twig, sent a shiver down Kaelin's spine. Her chest still ached from the encounter with the stranger in the shadows, the Alpha, and she couldn't shake the feeling that the woods themselves were watching, waiting. She moved deeper into the trees, seeking solitude, though part of her feared she would not find it. The moonlight broke through the branches in silvery streaks, illuminating the faint glow of the mark she had carefully hidden for so long. Her fingers itched to cover it, to erase the trace of what she truly was. But there was no erasing power like hers, no hiding the truth forever. Then the sudden sound of footsteps stopped her in her tracks. Slow, deliberate, confident, her heartbeat thumped in her ears as he emerged from the shadows. The Alpha. Up close, his presence was overwhelming. Muscles coiled beneath dark fabric, eyes gleaming like molten gold, and every inch of him radiated control, dominance, and danger. "You shouldn't be here alone," he said again, softer this time, almost a whisper carried on the wind. Kaelin forced herself to meet his gaze. "I can handle myself," she said, though her voice faltered slightly. He stepped closer, and the forest seemed to shrink around them. "Can you?" His voice was a velvet challenge, warm yet threatening. "The woods are full of predators, Kaelin. Not all of them are as forgiving as I am." The sound of her name on his lips made her knees weak. How did he know her name? Or was it more than that, a claim, a recognition of something she hadn't dared admit even to herself? Kaelin swallowed, hiding the trembling of her hands behind her back. She started, but he cut her off with a tilt of his head, a look that silenced her in ways words never could. For a moment they simply stood there, two beings connected by something invisible yet undeniable. The pull was magnetic, dangerous, intoxicating. Her mark burned under the layers of cloth, a secret screaming to be revealed, yet she forced herself to remain calm, to remain hidden. He studied her for what felt like eternity, eyes narrowing, searching for truths she wasn't ready to give. Then unexpectedly he reached out, just a hand hovering near her arm, not touching but testing. "You're hiding something," he said low, almost a growl, "and I will find out what it is." Her breath caught. His presence was both a shield and a threat. She wanted to flee, to vanish into the trees, but another part of her, a reckless, foolish part, wanted to lean into him to see what fire might ignite if she dared. A snapping twig in the distance drew his gaze, sharp and immediate. In a fluid movement, he vanished toward the sound, leaving her trembling and alone once again. But the forest didn't feel safe anymore. Neither did the night. Somewhere deep inside, Kaylin knew this was only the beginning, and that their paths were bound, whether she wanted it or not. Cliffhanger, as she exhaled shakily, a shadow detached itself from the undergrowth, a figure familiar, but not the alpha. Danger was closing in, and Kaylin's secret was closer to being exposed than ever. The pack house was alive with chatter and the scent of roasting meat, but Kaylin felt like an intruder in her own skin. Every gaze seemed sharper tonight. Every whisper carried just a hint of malice. She had hoped the alpha's brief appearance in the forest was a one-time encounter, something she could push to the back of her mind. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. She tried to stay near the shadows, moving quietly among the pack members who laughed and argued like the forest itself was cheering them on. Then came the challenge, sly, cutting, delivered with a smile that didn't reach the eyes. "Oh, look who wandered in," a pack woman sneered, stepping deliberately into her path. The quiet little human pretending to be something she's not. Kaylin froze, heart hammering. She forced a smile, trying to brush it off, but the words burned. Pretending, human, it wasn't just an insult. It was a threat, a knife aimed at the secret she had fought so hard to protect. The alpha's presence was sudden and commanding, stepping between her and the woman. He didn't speak at first, just studied her with those golden eyes, sharp and calculating. Then, finally, he said, "Watch yourself." One word, and the room seemed to shrink, all attention drawn to him. The woman laughed, but it was nervous now. "Or what? You'll bite me." Kaylin's stomach churned. She wanted to step forward, defend herself, but fear kept her rooted. Fear of exposure, of rejection, of the pack discovering what she truly was. And yet, in that moment, she felt the alpha's gaze lock on her. Not just protective, but assessing, measuring, waiting. "You can hold your tongue," he said softly, but with an edge that made everyone around them fall silent. "Or you can speak and regret it." Her cheeks burned, not just from embarrassment, but from something deeper. The heat of his presence, the unspoken tension between them, made her blood sing. And though he didn't touch her, the invisible weight of his protection pressed down on her in a way that was both comforting and terrifying. But the humiliation wasn't over. Whispers spread, eyes flicked, and Kaylin knew that rumors of her peculiarities had already begun. She clenched her fists under the folds of her coat, forcing herself to breathe. She couldn't let them see her panic, couldn't let the alpha see her vulnerable, not yet. Finally, the alpha turned, sweeping past the pack as if he owned the very air. He paused beside her, voice a low murmur just for her. "You're stronger than they think. Don't forget that." Kaylin nodded, swallowing hard, but the sting of humiliation lingered. The pack would talk, the rumors would spread, and the alpha. He would not forget, and deep down she knew this encounter was a test, a warning, one that would not be the last. Cliffhanger, as the gathering continued, a shadow shifted in the corner of the room. Watching, waiting, and unmistakably aware of the mark she so desperately tried to hide. The night air was crisp, tinged with the scent of pine and something darker, something lurking beyond sight. Kaylin moved silently along the forest path, heart still pounding from the humiliation at the pack gathering. She thought she could escape the prying eyes and whispered judgments, but the moon had other plans. Silver light filtered through the branches, illuminating the faint shimmer on her shoulder. She froze, fingers brushing against the hidden mark. It pulsed faintly, a heartbeat of power she had worked so hard to conceal. Her breath caught. She couldn't let anyone see. couldn't let anyone know. Yet, despite her efforts, the forest seemed alive with curiosity, drawing the energy from her mark into the open. A soft glow emanated, almost imperceptible at first, but growing brighter with every step she took, and then she sensed him, the Alpha, standing silently at the edge of the clearing, his eyes fixed on her with unerring precision. "Kaelin," he called, voice carrying across the night. Not a warning this time, but a question, an acknowledgement. Her pulse quickened. I didn't mean, you can't hide it." He interrupted gently, but with a hint of steel beneath the softness. "Whatever you are, it's not something that can be concealed." Panic prickled at her skin, her secret, the thing that had protected her, defined her, and isolated her, was spilling outward in the light of the full moon. And then she saw movement from the shadows, another pair of eyes observing, calculating. A rival pack member, silent and deliberate, had been watching all along. Her stomach churned. One misstep, one flicker of energy, and the secret she had carried for years could be exposed. She had to control it, but the mark's pulse quickened, responding to the Alpha's presence, to the moon, to her own rising fear. He stepped closer, hands open but not touching, radiating calm authority. "Focus on me," he said, low and commanding. "Control it. Don't let them take this from you." Kaelin's chest heaved. She drew in a trembling breath, willing the glow to recede. Slowly, painfully, the mark dimmed, but the tension remained. She could feel the eyes in the darkness, the knowledge that someone now suspected more than she intended. The Alpha's gaze softened as he studied her, amber eyes tracing the outline of the mark she could no longer fully hide. "You're stronger than you think," he murmured, "and you're not alone anymore." Her heart skipped a beat, alone, and yet not. The words were comfort, promise, and warning all at once. But before she could respond, a sharp rustle tore through the underbrush. Her breath caught, the glow of her mark flickered involuntarily, and the shadow that had been watching vanished into the night, leaving only questions and danger behind. Cliffhanger, Kaelin realized that someone now knew the truth about her powers. And if the Alpha hadn't been there, she might already have been trapped. The moon hung low, casting pale silver light over the forest clearing. Kaelin's hands still trembled, the faint pulse of her mark lingering beneath her skin like a warning. The forest felt impossibly quiet, each rustle amplified, each shadow a potential threat. She had hoped the encounter in the moonlight had gone unnoticed, hadn't been seen, but deep down she knew better. And then he appeared, the Alpha, silent, commanding, as if he had always been there, waiting. His golden eyes locked on hers, piercing, unyielding. Kaelin's stomach tightened, a mixture of fear and something far more dangerous, a thrill she tried to ignore. "You're hiding something," he said softly, stepping closer, not accusing, not threatening, but the weight behind his words was undeniable. "I can feel it. I've watched you long enough to know you're not like the others." Her chest constricted. She wanted to deny it, to retreat behind the walls she had spent years building. I don't know what you mean," she whispered, voice barely audible. His lips curved into a faint, knowing smile. "Don't lie to me. You're stronger than you think, Kaelin. Stronger than you're letting yourself be." Every word ignited a fire beneath her skin, a dangerous heat that made her pulse race. She had never been this close to someone who could see her, not just her body, her presence, but her very soul, and it terrified her. "I have to keep it hidden," she admitted finally, a tremor in her voice. "If anyone finds out, if the pack," if her words faltered, he stepped even closer, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating off him, close enough that the hairs on her arms stood on end. "No one will touch you while I'm here," he said, low and firm, "but hiding it from me, that won't work. I will find the truth, Kaelin, and when I do..." His gaze darkened, a dangerous blend of authority and desire. There will be no turning back. Her heart stuttered. Desire, fear, longing, all tangled into one impossible knot she didn't know how to unravel. She wanted to run, to flee into the forest and bury herself in anonymity. But another part, a reckless, foolish part, wanted to step closer, to test the magnetic pull between them. Before she could act, he reached out, a tentative hand hovering just above her shoulder, not touching, not yet, but close enough that her mark seemed to respond, pulsing faintly beneath her skin, betraying her secret even further. Kaylin swallowed hard, words trapped in her throat. She had no choice now. This was no longer just about hiding, about surviving. The Alpha knew, or at least suspected, and something in his eyes told her he would not relent until the truth was laid bare. "You can try to hide," he murmured, voice threading through the night like a promise and a warning. "But you can't hide from me, not anymore." And with that, he turned, leaving her alone with the pounding of her heart, the echo of his words, and the realization that the slow burn between them had become a wildfire. Cliffhanger, Kaylin's fingers brushed her shoulder where the mark throbbed, knowing that very soon she would have no choice but to reveal the truth, or risk losing everything. The forest was thick with the scent of pine and earth, but Kaylin barely noticed. Every nerve in her body was alive, vibrating with tension she could no longer ignore. The encounter with the Alpha had left her breathless, heart-pounding, and longing she didn't dare name. She was moving along the narrow forest path, careful to stay in the shadows, when a sudden roar shattered the stillness. A wolf, larger than any she had seen, lunged from the underbrush, teeth bared. Kaylin stumbled backward, a surge of fear tightening her chest. Before she could react, the Alpha appeared, faster than thought, stronger than instinct. In a single motion, he shielded her with his body, eyes blazing. "Kaylin," he growled, voice sharp with warning. Instinctively, she reached out, and their hands brushed. The contact was electric. A jolt ran through her entire body, and the mark on her shoulder flared, responding to his proximity. She gasped, stepping back, but he held her gaze, his hand lingering near hers. "You feel it, too," he said, voice low, tinged with awe and something darker, something she didn't dare name. The connection. It's not just me. Kaylin's heart thundered. This was wrong. So wrong. They shouldn't be feeling this, not while she was hiding her true self, not while the pack and rival eyes were everywhere. And yet, the pull was undeniable, magnetic, irresistible. The wolf lunged again, snapping teeth inches from her shoulder, and the Alpha pushed her behind him, claws extended, muscles taut. Their bodies pressed close for just a moment too long. She could feel the heat of him, the unspoken desire, the weight of a bond neither could deny. "You're mine," he murmured, almost to himself, almost a warning to the beast, almost a confession. The words left her breathless, her body humming with forbidden energy. Kaylin wanted to step back, to escape the heat, the pulse, the force that seemed to draw them together. But the mark burned beneath her skin, reacting to his proximity, demanding acknowledgement. Their connection was no longer hidden. It surged, fierce and undeniable. The wolf hissed, retreating slightly, sensing the Alpha's dominance, but the danger wasn't fully gone. Kaylin's mind raced, struggling to separate fear from the growing intensity of what the Alpha had awakened inside her. "I can't. This is forbidden," she whispered, trembling, trying to keep control over the energy flaring within her. He leaned closer, voice rough with barely restrained emotion. "Some things aren't meant to be controlled. Some bonds, they claim you whether you're ready or not." The forest seemed to hold its breath as their eyes locked, the tension electric, the danger from the wolf momentarily forgotten. In that charged moment, Kaylin realized there was no going back. The Alpha had ignited something within her that she could no longer deny, a connection, powerful and wild, that defied rules, warnings, and reason. Cliffhanger, as they both sensed the energy between them, a shadow flickered at the edge of the clearing. Someone watching, waiting, knowing that the forbidden bond had begun. Kaylin's pulse raced as she moved cautiously through the forest, the memory of her connection with the Alpha still burning beneath her skin. The energy between them had not faded. It lingered like a spark ready to ignite a wildfire. She had hoped, foolishly, that their bond would remain a secret, that the forest could shield her from prying eyes. But shadows have a way of revealing the truth. From the undergrowth, a familiar voice called softly. "Kaylin, it's me." She froze, one of her trusted allies, a friend she had confided in, someone she had believed would protect her secret, stepped into the moonlight. Relief surged briefly, only to crash into confusion when she noticed the subtle gleam in the stranger's eyes. The gleam of opportunity, of betrayal. "What are you doing here?" Kaelin asked, wary. "You shouldn't be wandering these woods." The friend's smile was tight, calculated. "I think the pack deserves to know," they said softly, almost casually. "They deserve to know what you are." Her stomach dropped. The mark, the powers she had hidden for years, the secret that had kept her alive, all at risk. "No, you can't." But it was too late. From the shadows, the rival pack member she had sensed before stepped forward, eyes gleaming with triumph. Whispers had already begun, rumors spreading like wildfire. The Alpha's name was there, too, whispered with curiosity and warning. Kaelin's heart clenched. She had trusted someone, and that trust had been shattered in an instant. Betrayal burned hotter than fear, sharper than the claws of a predator, and now the danger wasn't just from the forest or the rival or even the pack's whispers. It was personal. The Alpha emerged suddenly, moving like a storm through the trees. "Kaelin," he growled, voice a low thunder, "what's happening?" She tried to explain, but the betrayal had already done its work. Her ally backed away, guilt flickering briefly across their face, but the damage was done. Rumors were spreading, eyes were watching, and the rival pack member smiled cruelly, knowing the Alpha's attention would now be split between her and the threat before them. He stepped closer, amber eyes blazing with fury and desire, scanning the forest for any sign of danger. "Who did this?" he demanded. Kaelin's chest tightened. She had no words that could undo the harm. Only one truth remained. The forest was no longer safe. The secret could not remain hidden, and the Alpha's protective instincts were about to ignite in ways she wasn't sure she could survive. Her fingers brushed her mark unconsciously, the pulsing energy answering to the Alpha's presence. She felt it, the unspoken warning, the promise of retribution, and the undeniable bond that now tied her to him in more ways than one. Cliffhanger, from the shadows, a figure watched, smirking, holding the knowledge of her secret, and the Alpha's fury had yet to be unleashed. The clearing was alive with tension. Whispers of the rival pack's knowledge had spread like wildfire, reaching even the ears of the Alpha before Kaelin could explain herself. She moved cautiously, aware that every rustle of leaves, every shadowed movement, could be the prelude to confrontation. And then he appeared, the rival, towering, smug, eyes glinting with malice, every movement deliberate and calculated. "So this is the little secret everyone's been whispering about," he said, voice dripping with triumph. "The one you've worked so hard to hide." Kaelin's stomach twisted. The mark beneath her clothing pulsed as if it had a mind of its own, betraying her presence and powers. She clenched her fists, heart hammering, knowing that the delicate balance she had fought to maintain was collapsing. "Back off," the Alpha's voice cut through the tension like a blade. He stepped between Kaelin and the rival, muscles coiled, eyes blazing amber. "This ends now." The rival laughed, a low, mocking sound that sent shivers down Kaelin's spine. "Or what? You'll fight me over her." He gestured toward Kaelin with a cruel smirk, clearly enjoying the display of dominance and fear. Kaelin wanted to step back, to retreat, but she felt something shift inside her, a surge of courage, a spark ignited by the bond she shared with the Alpha. She couldn't hide anymore, not from him, not from the rival, not from herself. The Alpha's claws flexed, catching the moonlight, his growl resonating deep in his chest. "Step away from her," he warned, voice low and dangerous, a predator ready to strike. The rival advanced anyway, sneering, until Kaelin's mark flared unexpectedly, a sudden burst of energy rippling through the clearing. The glow drew every eye, illuminating the truth she had fought to conceal. Whispers erupted, gasps cutting through the night like knives. The Alpha's eyes locked on hers, a mixture of fury and something far more intense. "Desire, awe, recognition, Kaelin," he murmured, voice thick with emotion. "Are you all right?" I'm fine," she said, though her chest heaved and her hands shook. The rival's smirk faltered, replaced by caution. He hadn't expected the Alpha's power combined with hers, combined with the mark she had hidden so long. Without another word, the Alpha surged forward, force and speed unmatched, placing himself between Kaelin and the rival. Words were no longer enough. The tension crackled with raw energy. Claws flashed, bodies shifted, and the forest itself seemed to hold its breath as the two forces collided. Kaelin felt the pull between them, her energy mingling with his, a bond that was as dangerous as it was undeniable. The rival took a step back, realizing he had underestimated them both. Cliffhanger. Kaylin's eyes met the Alpha's, and for a heartbeat, the world narrowed to just the two of them. But in the shadows, she sensed another threat lurking, one that even the Alpha had not anticipated. The forest was alive with tension, every shadow a threat, every rustle of leaves a warning. Kaylin's chest heaved as she pressed forward, the weight of the rival's challenge still lingering, and the Alpha's protective presence a constant, magnetic force at her side. The mark on her shoulder throbbed with anticipation, demanding recognition, refusing to remain hidden any longer. "We can't hold them off much longer," the Alpha growled, eyes scanning the shadows. His muscles tensed, claws flexing, every movement radiating lethal strength. "They'll strike soon." Kaylin nodded, her throat tight. She had no choice to protect him, and perhaps herself. She had to reveal the truth. Slowly, deliberately, she pulled back her sleeve, exposing the intricate, glowing mark etched into her skin. A hush fell over the forest. Even the rival pack froze, uncertainty flickering across his face as the glow illuminated the night. It was more than a mark, it was a statement, a declaration of power and identity she had kept hidden for years. The Alpha's eyes widened slightly, then softened, amber flames of awe, pride, and desire reflecting in his gaze. "Kaylin, you've been hiding this." His voice was a mix of wonder and concern. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I was afraid," she admitted, voice shaking. Afraid of what it would mean. Afraid of what would happen if the pack, or you knew the truth. His hand brushed hers, fingers grazing her skin in a fleeting touch that sent a shiver down her spine. "You're stronger than you know," he murmured, "and nothing is going to harm you while I'm here." The rival snarled, regaining some semblance of composure, but hesitation lingered. The power of her mark was undeniable, and combined with the Alpha's strength, he realized he was outmatched. "This isn't over," he spat, retreating into the shadows, though the threat of his return hung heavy in the air. Kaylin exhaled slowly, the tension easing slightly as the danger receded. The Alpha stepped closer, close enough that the warmth radiating from him brushed against her, grounding her amidst the chaos. "You don't have to hide anymore," he said, voice low, intimate. "Not from me, not from anyone who truly matters." Her chest tightened. The words were a promise, a warning, and a comfort all at once. The forest seemed to hold its breath, the moonlight bathing them in silver glow as she finally felt the weight of her secret lift, at least partially. Kaylin's fingers lingered on her mark, pulsing faintly in response to the Alpha's presence. "I don't know if I can undo all the fear I've carried," she whispered. He cupped her face gently, thumb brushing her cheek. "You won't have to." He murmured, "I'll be with you, every step, every fight, every heartbeat." For the first time, Kaylin felt the full force of the bond between them. Not just desire, but recognition, acceptance, and destiny intertwined. The rival may have lingered in the shadows, the pack may still question her, but in this moment nothing else mattered. Cliffhanger, the forest was silent, but Kaylin felt it. The unmistakable sense that something greater than the rival, something darker, was watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The first light of dawn spilled over the forest, casting the trees in a golden glow. Kaylin stood at the edge of the clearing, the mark on her shoulder pulsing faintly with energy, no longer a secret, but a symbol of her true self. The events of the past nights, the humiliation, the betrayal, the danger, had forged something stronger within her, courage, clarity, and an unshakable bond with the Alpha. He approached silently, powerful and commanding, yet every step carried a tenderness that made her chest ache. "Kaylin," he murmured, voice low and steady, "the pack has seen who you are, and so have I. You've proven yourself not just to them, but to yourself." Her heart raced, emotions swirling in a dizzying storm of relief, pride, and something far more intimate. I'm not sure I can believe it yet," she admitted, voice soft, almost trembling. "All those years hiding. It feels like a lifetime." He took her hands in his, heat radiating from his skin, eyes locking onto hers with the intensity of a predator, and the warmth of someone who had found his mate. "You don't have to hide anymore, not ever, because I claim you, Kaelin, not because of the mark, not because of your powers, but because of who you are, all of you." Her breath caught, the words, simple, raw, and irrevocable, settled over her like sunlight through the leaves. Her pulse quickened, and for the first time in a long while, fear melted away. Desire, relief, and belonging surged through her, answering the pull that had bound them together since the first touch. The pack emerged from the shadows, their expressions a mixture of awe and acceptance. No more whispers, no more judgment, just acknowledgement. Kaelin could see the respect in their eyes, a recognition that her strength, her courage, and her identity were now undeniable. The Alpha drew her close, his forehead resting against hers. Together, he whispered, "We're unstoppable." Kaelin nodded, feeling the final threads of fear unravel. She leaned into him, her hands brushing his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath her fingertips. The mark pulsed faintly, as if echoing the rhythm of their connection, a symbol of power, trust, and destiny fulfilled. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a life without fear, without hiding. A life where she could be Kaelin, fully and completely alongside the Alpha who had seen her, claimed her, and refused to let her go. The forest around them seemed to sigh, the tension of the past nights dissolving in the morning light. Danger may still linger in distant shadows, but in this moment nothing else mattered. They were together, fated, free. Kaelin tilted her head up, meeting his eyes, and smiled, a smile full of hope, strength, and love. The Alpha mirrored it, and in that shared look, an unspoken promise passed between them. No secret, no rival, no fear could ever break the bond they had forged. And as the dawn painted the sky in hues of gold and rose, Kaelin felt the weight of the past lift completely. The mark that had once been a secret was now a symbol of everything she had survived, everything she had conquered, and everything she had yet to become, with the Alpha by her side. Ending, together they stepped forward into the new day, hearts aligned, souls intertwined, and a love that had survived secrets, betrayal, and danger, finally free to burn as bright as the rising sun.